yours. Just to acknowledge, last week I was in a management development training in Marconi Center, and the instructor was instructing on public speaking. He's Dr. Thomas Rogers from UC Berkeley, and he gave many tools and tips on public speaking, and I was so empowered. I thought I have to share this with this group, and so that's why I chose this topic of effective use of PowerPoint, and I'm taking many of the teachings that he taught us last week. With that, you can start my time. Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, think of a scenario when your boss comes to you and says, I have to give a presentation to the environmental group in 2 days, but I just got a call from my director today in the morning. He says I need to be there for a meeting on the same day, same time. What would you think if your boss says that? You would probably think, why me? Why couldn't you choose someone else over me? What kind of jerk you are? You are giving me just 1 day to prepare a presentation. So in that case, I want you to be calm and quiet, and I'm going to give you some tools which I believe that it will help you in the long run of creating a presentation and doing an excellent and effective PowerPoint presentation. So fellow Toastmasters and guests, how many of you know that there are 3 modalities of learning? We learn deep, visually, yes, right, and right. So there are 3 modalities of learning: by listening or auditory, which we use our ears; by visual aids, which we tend to see; and by kinesthetic, by doing things, using many of your body parts, whatever is required, your hands, other parts of the body's legs. So these are the 3 modalities of learning, and do you know which one is the primary one that people tend to use more for learning? It's the visual, yes. The visual is the 80% of the world's people use visual aids to get their learning, and PowerPoint is the tool that will give you to use that aspect of learning, visual aids. So I'm going to give you some tools and tips, I believe, which will help you with your PowerPoint skill development. Before PowerPoint was established, people used to do face-to-face presentation. There were visual aids too. They used to do demonstration, flip charts, tables, graphs. Sometimes they used slides and all these stuff. But when PowerPoint came, people were so excited. They said, oh, it was a marvel in the technology of presentation world, and they all grasped into PowerPoint. Unfortunately, they didn't really use it to its fullest potential. They used it wrongfully, and right now people are losing the popularity of PowerPoint, and people are tending to go back towards face-to-face presentation. And I think this is only because we did not use PowerPoint in the proper way. If we do use PowerPoint in the proper manner, we will use it for a long, long time. So some of the positive aspects of PowerPoint that I like to talk to you about, think of a picture. A picture can depict 1,000 words, right? So if in your presentation you have to communicate to people with something which requires 1,000 words, please don't use 1,000 words, use a picture. And PowerPoint is the perfect method to use that for. So this is about picture. Secondly, if your boss comes back 2 days after and says, hey, I told you to do the presentation, how did it go? What would you say? You say, it went very well. And then he says, can I see the presentation? You say, of course, I'll send you. So in that way, you can send your PowerPoint presentation. It's transferable, it's emailable, which face-to-face, you don't do that. You can do that, right? And if you do your PowerPoint presentation in the right manner, if you have a title slide with the title, the date stamped, with the name and the owner, the sponsor, you will have everything in one place. So wherever it travels in Ethernet, there is this ownership of that PowerPoint presentation. It's not going to get lost. So these are the positive aspects of PowerPoint presentation. Secondly, now I'm going to move into some of the details of PowerPoints which are misused by most people. So please pay close attention to them. It has been found that when you do PowerPoint presentation, people tend to look at your slides more than the presenter who is delivering the message. And what happens is your eye contact with your audience gets lost and your presentation tends to fall. I would urge you not to do that. Please try to minimize your eye contact with your slides at a minimum level and try to make it more engaging and interactive with your audience. In that way, it's never gonna fail. And always think that PowerPoint is a supporting tool. It's not the primary focus of your presentation. The primary focus is you. You are the one who prepared the presentation and you want people to hear that presentation. So you should be doing the presentation in a manner so people are looking at you, not your PowerPoint slides. They are only to support you, to aid your message, what you're trying to convey. Secondly, I want to say that, have you heard of triple delivery? PowerPoint is like a triple delivery message. It's, you have your speech, your slides, and then sometimes people give handouts. So there are 3 messages you are giving. And if you give the handouts before the presentation, the audience most likely would think that you are doing an assault to them because you are asking them to look at the handouts, look at your slides, and also listen to you. People's brain will be cluttered. Please do not do that. My advice would be, if you do need to have to give them PowerPoint handouts, please give them after the fact. After you are done with the presentation, give them to take something for home, and they can follow up with you at a later time. If you want them to hear your presentation, do not give handouts. But there is an exception. There are some expectations of some presentation that they will require you to do handouts, especially if you are in an executive meetings or management meeting. They will require you to do some handouts. In that case, please do so, but maybe you can do it at the end of the meeting. The third point I want to point is less is more. The less you give, the more information you're providing. Sometimes you'll see PowerPoint slides are filled with text and your brain can't just process that kind of complicated texty slide. Please don't do that. Give them just a little brevity and succinct message, and this will process better with your audience. And it's called documentation. There is a term for that, and it's called presentation as documentation syndrome. I hope my audience, for today especially, won't do that for future. Number 4, do not use sentences for your slides. Use bulleted points. Bring out the main features. Use bulleted points in a manner that they are parallel and they are grammatically correct. And if you're using active voice, use active voice for all your bullet points. If you're using passive, then do such. But do not do mix and match. And I just wanted to point out that, thank you. So these are some of the bad examples of bulleted points, like memory has been enhanced, improved speed, more flexible than before, extension of warranty. Good examples will be extended memory, improved speed, greater flexibility, extended warranty. Do you think it sounds better?
Yes.
Yeah. So these are some of the stuff that you can think of doing in future if you haven't done already. Number 5, which is very important to me, since I've been using PowerPoint, everybody was saying, okay, we were asking people, what is the general rule for the slides? And people will say the 2 minutes is the general rule of thumb. You should not use more than 2 minutes per slide. And last week, I was reading the handouts of Dr. Thomas Rogers, and he says, do not use more than one slide for every 2 minutes of presentation. It's just totally opposite. The first one, when you say use 2 minutes per slide, it's slide focused. You are giving 2 minutes per slide. And when I heard last week, give one slide, no more than one slide per 2 minutes of your presentation. That means you are presenting for 2 minutes and then you can introduce just one visual aid in that presentation, totally different. So always remember, do not introduce any visual aids more frequent than 2 minutes. Sometimes we see that people do death by PowerPoint, which is all these flying objects, colors and things. And these are, make it simple. It will convey your message, and save those kind of fancy stuff for your elementary school child. They will have much fun doing that than us. No complicated charts or tables, huge message. If you want to communicate a lot of difficult message, please don't use complicated charts which you cannot convey the message in a reasonable time frame. Just shorten your message and do it in a manner which is succinct. Use blank slides. I should have used it. After you're done with one slide, if you are going to a transition or if it needs some explanation, you use just a blank slide so people are knowing that you're going to be transitioning or you are going to explain it more. So use a blank slide. Now the last, not the last, the one before last, it's also very important. It's called minimum eye sweep. People in the Western world, they are very used to seeing things, the lines of the text going from left to right and up to down. So what happens is when you introduce a slide by learned behavior, people will look for information here, and then they will try to see if there are more information here or going down. And this is called, when you are looking for this, it's called carriage return. And when you are trying for these are called reflexive cross sweep. And then if they don't find, they can kind of sense that there are more information, they're going back in this direction. And it's called forced carriage sweep, which is kind of difficult for people to process. So try to do your sweeps as minimum as you can, maybe 2 or 3 lines. Don't use more than that because people try not to do too many eye sweeps. And if you have your pictures or something, place it on this side because that's where it's going to get more focus. Please do not place it there or there. You'll see in the pictures, like in a day-to-day life pictures, then the artist will sign here because people go from here. If they don't see any message there, they will come down. So that's why artists sign here. And the last one I wanted to share is the 6x4 rule, which means you can do 6 lines with 4 crosswords. Please try not to do more than that. People used to do it, which 6x4 will be 24 words per slide. People used to do 36, but with the research they found that it was too much. So they reduced it to 6x4 rule. With that, I think I gave you some tips for you to work on. And in summary, I just wanted to say that there are lots of great things with PowerPoint. If you use it properly, it will stay for a long time with us, and we will still see value in it. And finally, in closing, I wanted to share a story. There was a guy who was presenting in a broad auditorium and with all these big screens, and as he started speaking, he was the light got dimmed. He started red click, and at some point he saw that there was nobody looking at him. Everybody was looking at the PowerPoint slides. So he just snuck out the door. He was doing red click. He went in the hallway. He was still doing red click. He finished his presentation. Just before he finished, he came back to the room and he found people never noticed that he left the room. So I just urge you, don't do presentations like that. Make it more interactive, engaging, and talk to your audience. With that, I hope I have persuaded you enough to use PowerPoints, and I gave you some tools, and I hope that you will excel in PowerPoint. And finally, I think you'll be probably sending for a bonus from your boss if you do a good presentation. Thank you.